Welcome to John's Maths book. In this video we're going to be looking at solving quadratic equations by completing the square where the coefficient of the x squared term is equal to 1. If you like these videos then please share, subscribe, like and comment as usual. If we write a quadratic in the standard form, we have y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. To solve a quadratic by completing the square, we need to rewrite the standard form into y is equal to a times x minus h all squared plus k. If we plot the xy graph of a quadratic, as we know it's a parabola shape and it has two roots. One is here and the other is here at y is equal to 0. One reason for using the completing the square method is that we can find the vertex of the parabola, or where the curve turns, as shown here. Now the vertex, the coordinates of the vertex can be found at coordinates h and k, as shown when we rewrite the quadratic equation. So let's look at an example of how we complete the square. So let's look at the quadratic equation x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. To complete the square, we need to take the value of b. Now the value of b is the coefficient of x. So in our case, b is equal to 4. We take the value of 4 and we halve it. So b divided by 2 is half, and then we square the result of that. So that works out to be 4 squared, which is 16. So 4 times 4 is 16, divided by 2 squared, which is 4. 2 times 2, and that is equal to 4. Now let's rewrite the quadratic so we have the constant term on the right hand side. So we have x squared plus 4x is equal to minus 1, and then add the value of 4 to both sides of the equation. So we get x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to minus 1 plus 4, which is equal to 3. So now on the left hand side we have what's known as a perfect square trinomial, which we can factorize as follows. So the left hand side becomes x, and then plus half of the b value. We know that the b is 4, so half of 4 is 2. So plus 2, and that's all squared, is equal to 3. So now we have this equation in the form of y is equal to a times x minus h all squared plus k. So we can now find the coordinates of the vertex using this. So we see that h and k can be found at minus 2 and minus 3. So now let's go ahead and solve this for the two values of x so that we can find the roots of the quadratic. So if we take the square root of both sides, left hand side becomes x plus 2 and the right hand side becomes plus or minus the square root of 3. So solving for x, we have one value of x is equal to minus 2 plus the square root of 3, and the other value of x is equal to minus 2 minus the square root of 3. Okay, let's look at exercise 1 and solve the quadratic by completing the square. Let's take the example x squared minus 10x plus 12 is equal to 0. Pause the video now and see if you can work out the correct answer. Okay, hopefully you've got the right answer. So as we saw in our example, we need to complete the square. So to complete the square, we need to take the value of b, which in our case, b is equal to minus 10. We then need to halve that value and square the result. So minus 10 divided by 2 all squared. So minus 10 squared divided by 2, that is the same as saying 100 divided by 4, which is equal to 25. So if we rewrite the quadratic equation and we take the constant term over to the right hand side, we get x squared minus 10x is equal to minus 12. And then if we add the value that we've just calculated, 25, to both sides, we get x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to minus 12 plus 25. So on the left hand side we have a perfect square trinomial which can be factorized as x, and then we take the value of b and we halve it. So x minus 5, so minus 5 is 10, minus 10 divided by 2, and then we square that term, and that equals to 25 minus 12 is 13. So if we now solve that equation for x, so on the left hand side and the right hand side we'll take square root. So if we take the square root on the left hand side, we get x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 13. So the two values of x, if we solve this for x, we get x is equal to 5 plus square root of 13, and we get x is equal to 5 minus the square root of 13. So for exercise number 2, let's solve the quadratic x squared plus 6x plus 2 equals 0. Pause the video now and see if you can work out the correct answer. So hopefully you got the correct answer. So let's see if we can complete the square and find the roots and the vertex. So when we complete the square, we take the value of b, which is the coefficient of the x term. So in our case, b is equal to 6. We halve the value of b, so 6 divided by 2, and then we square that result. So that becomes 6 divided by 2 is 3 squared, which is equal to 9. So let's rewrite the quadratic equation and take the constant term to the right. So that becomes x squared plus 6x is equal to minus 2. And then we add 9, the value that we've just calculated, to both sides. So we have x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to minus 2 plus 9, which gives us 7. So on the left hand side now is a perfect square trinomial. So let's factorize that. So that gives x and then plus half of the value of b. So the value of b is 6. So half of that is 3. So plus 3 all squared is equal to 7. So in this form we have the vertex of the parabola, so the coordinates. So the vertex of the parabola our coordinates h and k, which in our case h is -3 and k is -7. So now if we solve this equation for x to find the roots of the quadratic, so if we take the square root of both sides, we get x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus square root of 7. So the values of x would be x is equal to -3 plus the square root of 7, and x is equal to -3 minus the square root of 7. So for exercise 3, let's solve the quadratic x squared plus 3x plus 1/4 equals 0. Pause the video now, see if you can work out the answer. So hopefully you got the answer. So let's take a look at how we solve this by completing the square. So first of all, we look at the b value. So b is the coefficient of the x term. So in our case, b is equal to 3. So let's put that in. B is equal to 3. So we halve the b value, so we divide it by 2. So 3 divided by 2, and then we square the result of that. So in our case, 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4, so the value of 9/4. Now rewrite the quadratic to take the constant term over to the right. So we have x squared plus 3x is equal to -1/4. And then we add the value of 9 divided by 4 to both sides. So we say x squared plus 3x plus 9 divided by 4 is equal to 9 divided by 4 minus 1/4. So on the left hand side we now have a perfect square trinomial which can be factorized as follows. So we put x and then we add half of the b term. So we add the b term is 3, so we halve it, 3 divided by 2, and that value is all squared, and that equals to 9 divided by 4 minus 1 divided by 4, which is 8 divided by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. So if we take the square root of both sides, we end up with x plus 3/2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2. So now we have the two roots of the equation. So we have x is equal to minus 3/2 plus the square root of 2, and x is equal to minus 3 divided by 2 minus square root of 2. Also note that in this step here we can find the coordinates of the vertex. So the coordinates of the vertex are h and k. So in our case h and k would be minus 3/2 minus 2. For exercise number 4, let's solve the quadratic equation x squared minus 8x minus 5 equals 0. Pause the video now and see if you can work out the correct answer. So when we complete the square, we take the value of b, we halve it and we square it. So b is the coefficient of the x term. So b in our case is minus 8. B is equal to minus 8. So if we halve minus 8, we have 8 minus 8 divided by 2, and then we square that. So that equals minus 8/2 times minus 8/2 So that is equal to plus 64 divided by 4, which is equal to 16. So now if we rewrite our quadratic equation, taking the constant value over to the right, we get x squared minus 8x is equal to 5. We add the value of 16 to both sides. So x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 5 plus 16. So the left-hand side is now a perfect square trinomial. So we can factorize the left-hand side to give x, and then half the b value. So the b value in this case is minus 8, so half of minus 8. So 8 divided by 2 is, that's minus 4. That becomes all squared, is equal to 5 plus 16 is 21. So in this form we have the coordinates of the vertex of the parabola. So h and k in this case is equal to the value of 4 and the value of minus 21. So let's go ahead now and solve this equation and find the roots of the quadratic. So we can take the square root of both sides. So it gives us x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus square root of 21. So we solve that, we get two values of x. So x is equal to 4 plus square root of 21, and x is equal to 4 minus the square root of 21. So that concludes this video on completing the square, where the coefficient of the x squared term is equal to 1. Our next video will look at where the coefficient of the x squared term is greater than 1.